Hello and welcome to the SRA Specific Skills Series. We're doing Research Book E. So E represents the grade level 5, so this is 5th grade, but you don't by all means need to be a 5th grader to utilize the information here. It's going to keep building as you get into different grade levels and the expectations required by teachers in fulfilling the assignments that are going to be provided. But first and foremost, this is for educational purposes only. So if you're going to be utilizing these books and by printing it out and having physical paper versions of what I have online, you can utilize a sheet protector to help with just the ease of completing the assignments, because there's going to be a necessary evil that we have to do here. Even though we're going to be doing the lesson, you're going to have to be toggling between this particular tab and another tab, unless you're going to keep this in a little window separate, minimized in another way. But if you have two monitors and you're going to have dual monitors, that'd probably be the best way to do this. But you're going to need to have access to the internet, because some of the information that's provided in research, it's really going over the different resources. You're going to be tasked to look up things or go to different websites and kind of see what's going on in each one. I want to also make sure to go over how each unit, just like any of the other books, if you've seen the other videos I've done for the SRA series, you're going to see the rule box at the top of the page for every unit, and it's going to have an example, or what is presented here. It's called modeling, so it's going to model the information that it's providing you in regards to the rule that's associated with that. And now we're dealing with resources, so it's not necessarily rules that we're learning, it's understanding what the resource is, how to access it, what it's for. So if you're going to be looking at, I don't know, the table of contents or something in regards to that, you can just use a regular book, open up a textbook if you need to look at a table of contents, just to have access to it. You don't necessarily need the internet for that particular portion of it, but it's just to acquaint yourself with the different resources. Now, there is a writing process in the SRA Specific Skills Series, my apologies, that you probably should do right after you do the research, because once you've gathered your research, the next thing you're supposed to do is write about it. Well, the back end of this particular book does go over writing your paragraphs, outlining, and doing a bibliography and things of that nature. So it would be an easy transition to go from research for these books into the writing process. And this is mainly for, moms and dads that are being asked to be teachers at home during this COVID-19 issue. So hopefully this will be helpful in getting your child and your students or children, because you probably have more than one for those of you who do. This can be scaled up or down based on the age level and the abilities. So look at these books instead of grade level, look at their actual level. So they're familiar with some of these things. Well, there's only one way to know how familiar they are with it, is to go through these exercises and make sure they understand. And since it's technically is 5th grade, where it's getting ready to jump off into the middle school world, so this might be a good refresher if you have a student that's in middle school, to go back to this and kind of review this series and make sure they know what's going on, because the expectations for quality work in papers only gets more challenging and more difficult for each grade level as you move up and onwards into college and then in the workplace, of course. So being able to properly conduct a research paper, or how to properly research in general, let alone just writing a paper, this is its own different category. I only spend 5 to 6 seconds for each page, just long enough to allow you to pause and look at the questions provided in the exercises, and also to write down the notes. So it's highly suggested, and it's best practice to write things down, because when you're writing, you're actively thinking, and that's building your working memory. So the better your working memory is, the better it's going to divide the information that you're learning into short-term and long-term memory. And you want this to go into your long-term memory, so you want to be writing as much as possible, reviewing your work, making sure you understand it. The assessments that are provided in this book are done the same way as any other book in this series. You're going to do a couple units, so 2 or 3 units at a time, and then you're going to do an assessment. You cannot use your notes, and you're not supposed to use your notes prior to taking the or not prior to, but during the assessment itself. You can look at them before you do the assessment, but think of it as like a pop quiz kind of thing. Show us how much you know and how well you can apply the information you just learned. So just make sure you have internet connection so you can do these exercises. So without further ado, I'm going to move forward, and at the end of the video is the answer key. So as the parent, if you want to just go skip all the way down to the answer key to see what each unit is going to be covering, because it's going to cover specifically what category or what part of the topic it's covering, because some units are going to be different than others, and you might have the same skill set being taught in 2 consecutive units. So make sure you read the To the Teacher and To the Student pages. That will help you out a lot. I'm going to pause on the To the Student page and review the information that's presented there to show you how important it is to go over that. So you can pause the video on the To the Student page and read it word for word after I've gone over the page itself, or you can just read it yourself. This is the To the Student page. It's going to give you what the book is going to be about. So this is like an about the book. This is an overview of the book. This book contains 18 units. There are less than 18 topics presented here. So as I mentioned before, some of these topics are going to cover more than 1 unit, or they're going to be covered in more than 1 unit because they're going to cover different aspects of that topic. All right, so here's more information that you're going to be presented. So this kind of gives you a visual of what modeling the information might look like. So if you're going to be looking at a data or chart, they might say, oh, a data chart or a table is blah, 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 and then they're going to give you a visual table to show exactly what they were just talking about. So you're going to have a model. This is what we would call the modeling component of the rule box, because the rule box will contain the rule plus an example, which is to model what the information that's being talked about above is showing. And at the very end, just like in any classroom, the teacher's required to have the learning objective and learning goals on the board. This is the learning goal, learning objective of the book. So make sure that you have, by the time you finish the book, that this is something that you've mastered, that this is an understanding that you have gained. So your students should be able to do that. And what I've been also noticing, or I've had students do, because I use this for middle, high school, and college prep test taking, I use these books for that, because the components that are provided in SAT and ACT practice books, they give them the excerpts, so this helps to go over identifying some of that information. It's helpful to just kind of know what the different resources are. But towards the end, it does go over writing process information, so this is very important to know and understand and be able to visualize the information. And they do provide those visualizations here in these books, and that's what I really like about them. All right, so onwards and upwards, here we go, all the way to the end. It will be completely silent until we get to the answer key. All right, it's the end of the book. Let me get to the answer key. And the answer key goes in chronological order from one column to the next. So you'll have, I'll zoom in. So this is for the top half of the page. And this is for the bottom half of the page. If the language activity pages had fill in the blanks or words, I normally zoom in. So the last activity, so the last language activity page is over here. And then of course you can see after the first 3 units, the first one is located right after. So all you have to do is follow the pages. All right. And that is the answer key for that. You can just go to Casey Kite on YouTube to view these videos. I'm doing as many of the, I'm doing all the books that I have for the SRA skill series. I'm still looking for a few. I want the G&H versions of all of them, and I'm missing the usage books for the middle school level, but I'd like to have the middle to high school level of the usage books for this. They're just really expensive and really hard to find without being part of a public school system where they can buy it through the county. It's really hard to come across, and I don't know if there are any updated versions of these books or not, or if they're just doing reprints at this point. But I hope this was helpful. And I do want to also add a little note at the end. If you notice how some of the topics are presented for researching certain things, you can utilize that aspect of it for independent work for your kids and for your students, so that you can have that as a way to see if they actually can apply what they've learned in these lessons in the context of an actual research project or research topic. So if you wanted to talk about marsupials and you wanted them to do to tell them to find a magazine article that talks about marsupials, then they can do that. And then furthermore, do an outline of a paper that would, if they picked their favorite marsupial and wanted to do a breakdown or an outline of how they would do their paper. So this could be something that could be strung out into an actual writing component, which again, I'll reiterate, go through the writing process books, do those exercises with the SRA program, and you'll have a nice, whole and conducive and rigorous work available to engage your students in for the next level of application and mastery. All right, I hope to see any comments, if you have any, regarding what I've covered in this particular books, or in these particular books for this program. Thank you.